Hey guys, welcome back to the Fight Book. This is your Indian accent guy, and I'm back with new fight announcements and the fights that got cancelled. Basically, we have news from 5 upcoming UFC fights, 6 non-UFC fights, and I think 9 or 10 boxing fights. So, without wasting time, let's start the video in chronological order, and we will start from UFC fights. First, this weekend, you all know Pereira versus Enclave is happening, and out of nowhere, we have a new fight added on the card, and it's a bantamweight bout between Chris Gutierrez versus John Castaneda, who will start the card in the early prelims. Then, from March 22nd, UFC London card, which is headlined by Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady, we have confirmed news from Leon Edwards, who said this fight is gonna be that title eliminator fight, and if he beats Sean Brady, he is going to fight the winner of Bilal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. Bilal Muhammad has answered to these comments and said that Leon will have to wait at least 3 more years because he cannot leapfrog Shafkat Rahmanov with a win over Sean Brady. And I think Bilal is right. Then on March 22nd, March 29, we have UFC Mexico, and a new fight announcement is Raul Rosas Jr., who will be taking on Vince Morales. Raul Rosas Jr., who used to be a good prospect, then he lost his hype from, I think, Christian Rodriguez, and he is now again back on a good winning streak. Let's see what he does at UFC Mexico. Then another fight from UFC Mexico is Austin Hubbard versus Daniel Zellhuber. Daniel Zellhuber was scheduled to fight Stephen Ribovich, who had pulled out. So Austin Hubbard had replaced Ribovich. Now Daniel Zellhuber has himself pulled out due to injury in his fight camp, and he is going to be replaced by Nicolas Mota. The replacement is not confirmed yet, but according to the sources, it will be Nicolas Mota. So basically, we have a whole new fight between Austin Hubbard and Nicolas Mota at UFC Mexico. Then on May 3rd, as we have UFC Des Moines in Iowa, and the news is from Bo Nickel fight. We told you, I told you in the last video that Bo Nickel could be fighting in UFC 315 because he always fight in pay-per-views, but the news is coming that Bo Nickel's next fight, which is against Rainier de Ridder, is not going to be in pay-per-view. We had news that he is fighting in May, so the May pay-per-view was UFC 315, so we thought he will be back at UFC 315, but now the news is that Bo Nickel will be fighting in Iowa Des Moines against Rainier de Ridder, and the reason, because the wrestling is big in Iowa. Azamat Bekhoev also announced that he will be fighting in Iowa at UFC Des Moines, but he hasn't announced his opponent yet. Then from UFC 315 card, we have a new fight added on it, and it is Navajo Sterling from City Kickboxing versus Ivan Arslan. And that's all from the UFC. We have some call outs as well. Let me share it with you. Gene Silva has called out Movsar Evloev. Basically, he is on a good winning streak, but it doesn't make any sense, at least at this point of their careers. So Movsar didn't respond to him. He said that he will be fighting for the title in his next fight, but if Brian Ortega accepts the fight, he will fight Brian Ortega. But as we had news from months ago that Brian Ortega will be moving up to the lightweight, but he hasn't decided yet and not announced it publicly. So let's see what happens. But Neil Dariush called out Ilia Topuria. Basically, he didn't call out, but he said he would love to welcome Ilia Topuria in the division, which also I don't think makes much sense. Nurmagomedov calls out Cody Brundage to fight at UFC 316 in Newark, June 7th. Cody Brundage, who won his fight this weekend in the co-main event. Then Kyle Ohio calls out Robert Whittaker, who had called out Sean Strickland. Robert Whittaker has previously said that his fight versus Sean Strickland is in works for the International Fight Week. Ohio condemned Whittaker for calling out the guys who are above in the rankings. Ohio deserves an opponent above the rankings, so whoever that would be, but at least he deserves someone higher ranked opponent. Then Jailton Almeida has called out Tom Aspinall, who had also showed interest in fighting Almeida if John Jones doesn't accept the fight and vacates the belt. Jimmy Crute and Julius Walker, lastly, both had publicly said that they want to return in June or July. So why not match them against each other? UFC news wrap up here. Some non-UFC MMA fights. We have another event is announced by Karate Combat for May 2nd. KC54 in the Bay will be headlined by Sam Alvey, the guy who was pretty famous in the UFC for his long losing streak. Sam Alvey is now their heavyweight champion, and he will be facing Tyron Spong in the headlining bout. The co-main event is announced as Alex Pereira's sister, Aline Pereira, who will be facing the opponent that is yet to be announced for the Women's Flyweight Championship. And another event, fight announcement is from Tony Ferguson, who was on Ariel Helwani show, where he said he will be fighting Dillon Danis on May 11th. People do not believe that GFL will eventually hold an event, or it can hold an event, but this is Tony Ferguson said that he is fighting on May 11 on a GFL card. So let's see if GFL really holds an event. And that's that. Now we turn to the boxing news. First is from April 5th Queenberry's card, which was headlined by Dillian White versus Joe Joyce. That headliner is cancelled because Dillian White is injured, and the promotion is looking for a replacement opponent for Joe Joyce to save the card. Then on April 12th, Majnoon's card, which is headlined by Ennis versus Stagnonis for the IBF and WBA welterweight titles. The co-main event is announced by Eddie Hearn. He said the co-headliner will be Raymond Ford versus the opponent to be decided. And one undercard fight is also announced for the event, where 15-0 prospect Arturo Cardenas will face Christian Cardo. Next day, May 3rd, Riyadh Seasons Canelo versus William Skull card. We have a news from the co-main event of this card, and it is not confirmed yet, but according to the sources, WBA number 1 ranked Yanni Hernandez versus WBA number 2 ranked Shane Mosley Jr. will clash to decide who will face WBA middleweight champion Arislandi Lara next. The official fights are also done here. We have a news from Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach Jr. 2. Lamont Roach said that maybe the result of their fight can be overturned and Gervonta may lose his all. So Gervonta Davis in response said that he is pushing for the rematch, and it can happen as early as May 2025. Then the last news is from Junto Nakatani fight. As everyone was waiting, Junto Nakatani will be facing Ryosuke Nishida in a WBC and IBF bantamweight unification fight. People wanted Junto Nakatani to see against a champion in a unification fight, and they're gonna get it. And this fight can happen in June. According to the sources, it is not officially announced yet. And that's all in this video. I will not waste your more time because the video has already been long enough. So now do whatever you want because you are completely up to date with the fight world.